Welcome to Women Who Lead. My name is Ohenaba Ama Nti Osei, and I have a special edition for you today. We are trailing yet again the Africa Reports podcast series on Women Who Lead, profiling high-achieving female business executives, politicians, and thinkers in Africa and in the diaspora. In this episode, we sit down with another outstanding woman who shares her career milestones as an investment banker, lawyer, stockbroker, and author. She's the Group CEO of Nigeria-based Emerging Africa Capital and has over 30 years experience in senior management positions in investor services, law, and finance. Hi, Toyin. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us today. You have an illustrious career. You're a seasoned investment banker. But before we talk a bit about your professional journey, what was growing up like in Nigeria?
Growing up was fun. Growing up was exciting because I come from a large family. So my parents had 7 children, 5 boys and 2 girls. I was one of the 2 girls. It was also, I learned to stretch and challenge myself right from the get-go because because I had 5 brothers, so physically I wanted to get up to everything they were getting up to. So I learned to climb trees and every other thing that the young boys wanted to do because I had to prove that I was as good as them. I also learned to stretch myself intellectually because my only sister, who is my older sister, was actually as good as an intellectual genius. So she was always at the top of her class. And so coming up as the only other girl in the family after a sister like that, you really...
There's pressure.
Yeah, there is pressure from day one. So, but I think, as the Bible says, I count it all joy because all that is a big part of, who I am today.
And your parents?
Oh, my parents, I think I had a wonderful mix. My mother was very strict. She was a strict disciplinarian and she was tough. My father was very gentle and very loving. So again, I was able to see the 2 sides of parenting and combined together, it gave me a good balance. My mother was a businesswoman and she was very target-oriented, very industrious, just like her mother before her. And she could travel as far as it took and work as hard as it took to achieve her business goals. And that was very, very exciting. My father was hung up on education, and so he constantly motivated all his children to be very serious about our academics and achieve our academical objectives. So again, between the 2 of them, I consider myself blessed. And
would you say you get your business acumen from your mother? Because like you say, her mother, so your grandmother, you come from a line of business women.
100% correct. So definitely my mother and her mother before me, I would regard them as the forerunners of my business acumen, as you put it. And by the way, also, yes, my father's mother was also a very strong businesswoman.
Okay.
So I kind of come from a lineage on both sides of businesswomen. So yeah,
it's in the blood.
A lot of credit. Yeah, I think so. It's in the blood.
So how did you become the entrepreneur you are today? What was the journey like? Was it a straight line or was it more of a zigzag?
For me, I would say it was more zigzag than straight because, like I said, I studied law. I have a master's degree in law. And so my original ambition was to be a successful lawyer. Along the line, I got excited by the financial side of law. So then I wanted to be a crackshot finance lawyer. And finally, I realized that why restrict myself to the law side of finance when all the action is actually in the financing? And so I decided that, I wanted to be a crackshot financier. So here am I.
And here you are doing a great job as such.
Thank you.
You're currently Group CEO of Emerging Africa Capital Group, which is a leading African investment banking group.
Thank you.
In Nigeria, where you are based, what is working well and what is not working well in the capital market?
Wow. Okay, what is working well in the capital market, I would say, is that we have a relatively advanced financial sector. compared to other African markets. We have a huge market, and so the size of the economy itself is also encouraging. We have well-trained and well-exposed financial experts, and specifically women. We've got a lot of high-achieving women in the finance sector in Nigeria. So those are things that we've got going for us. What is it that we could have better? In terms of the regulatory environment, there is room for mainstreaming of the capital market, elimination of silos between the money market and the capital market. There could be better harmonization between the various finance sector regulators. Those are some areas where there could be an improvement. Obviously, in terms of economic reforms, we like the economic recovery and growth plan that has been made by the administration of President Buhari. To ensure that there is implementation of that would also be very useful for the growth of our economy.
Okay. You're very big on SMEs. What do you think needs to be done to get more financing to Nigerian SMEs?
Wow. I am big on SMEs because SMEs do provide close to 70% of the jobs across sub-Saharan Africa. SMEs are critical to the development of our economies across Africa. These SMEs are also clearly the avenue or the vehicle for growing wealth. And of course, they provide investment opportunities for our people. Now, what needs to be done is better governance for the SMEs so that investors can be encouraged to invest in them. Favorable policies by government to encourage financing for SMEs. Asset protection, for example, is an area that will be very important. So the ease of acquisition, registration, for example, of landed property, and the ease, most importantly, of transfer and especially mortgages in terms of, because these mortgages are required to back up financing for these SMEs. Also, a more flexible regime in terms of collateralization generally of facilities and of funding for SMEs so that banks look beyond the traditional requirements for landed property, because some of these SMEs do not have the landed property. But for those who are, for example, in agriculture and in other sectors in industries where the landed property itself is a big part of the capital that is deployed, then we need to ease their ability to raise funding against that huge asset that they have.
It's been said that you get more reliable payments when you lend to women-run institutions. Or is it simply good, or people say it's simply good business to lend to women? Do you agree with this?
I think you're right in both instances. Mm-hmm. It is good business to lend to women. Women tend to have a less jaded approach to meeting their loan obligations. It's not impossible that the fact that over the years women have not found it that easy to raise capital means that when they do finally get to raise capital, they are very conscientious about repaying so that hopefully they can access more. So they have not been spoiled in that way. So that's one of the reasons why it's good. I also think that women-run businesses are sometimes more cautiously run, have a healthier approach to risk-taking. And so because of that, also the level of the rate of default and the rate of the businesses crashing on account of mismanagement is lower.
It's lower.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, after an award-winning career at United Capital, you were Group CEO, you left after 4 years, and you launched EACG in July 2018. What was the transition like?
Okay, so the transition from being an executive I'm specifically from being chief executive of a listed public company, which in one of those years was declared the most outstanding public company in Nigeria. To starting and incubating a new financial services organization, which I raised capital for and set up, has been, let me say, interesting because you're coming out of a system that, in a way, is almost in plug and play mode. Because of the institutionalization that we had done, for me in the 12 and a half years where I had been in the group, first as managing director of one of the subsidiaries, and then for 8 years, and then for another 4.5 years as the group chief executive officer. So from the work that my colleagues and I had done to institutionalize processes, to build a brand that was strong and recognizable, and to have a track record of successfully executed transactions and satisfied clients and shareholders, to starting afresh and essentially having to build a new brand and having to also convince many times the prospective clients that we can deliver on our promises. Definitely it's not been a walk in the park, but I am thrilled by what we have accomplished. So thrilled by what we have accomplished in that period in terms of increasing recognition of the brand and in terms of the confidence that our clients, some of whom are governments and major corporate entities, including incidentally competing, as it were, financial services providers, including fellow investment banks, that they have reposed in us in giving them mandates to execute on their behalf, and the support we have received towards the execution of those mandates is quite
Was there
exciting.
any given moment where you're like, Toyin, I should have stayed maybe a bit longer, I shouldn't have moved? Was there any moment where you doubted yourself or you hesitated?
Okay, I'll answer that in a funny way. So the first thing is to say that at no time did I feel I should have stayed longer.
Okay.
More often I have felt, why didn't I start out much earlier? Because at no time did I have any doubts that we were going to accomplish our objectives. But at some times I was like, I wish I was further down along the curve than this. I wish I had started this 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. We would have gotten all these foundational issues out of it. We would have a clear track record. So there's that impatience. Occasionally, and by the way, I think every day, I ask myself, that's the flip side of it. Every day, there's a point at which I ask myself, why did I get into all this? Why didn't I just retire and leave off my, retirement savings? I mean, I had a career of over 33 years and worked hard in those 33 years. I am an investment manager myself. And of course, I had been prudent with my finances over 33 years. So I could have just gone and lived off my income that I had earned and invested wisely, rather than taking it all and putting it in this investment with also the capital of our shareholders who put their faith in me. But so I always said to myself that to doubt yourself or to question your actions is a mark of wisdom. But to never question your actions or doubt yourself is simply foolhardy. The important thing is, after those questions come, how do you resolve those issues in your own mind? So yes, once in a while, probably every day, I ask myself, why did I get myself into this? I could have been lying on a beach somewhere and sipping a
martini. I think self-awareness is
sipping a virgin colada or something.
Self-awareness is very important. Very important. Yeah. And in those moments of doubts, people say, you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Is that something you believe in?
I totally believe in it. And the reality is that men seem to traditionally be more willing to try new things and to stretch themselves beyond their obvious capabilities. And I think we need to do that as women. We need to stretch ourselves. We need to be willing to do something that we may not feel 100% ready for. Because as we go along that journey, then the learning curve, we shortens, and we get a grip of it, and then we learn new things. Whoever is not growing, whoever is not learning, as far as I'm concerned, is dying. So if I only ever take on assignments that I feel I'm 100% ready for, I think I'm shortchanging myself. And in the interim, I should act like, I got this and I know what I'm doing. And eventually it will become like that. Another thing that I shared with you earlier is that at every new assignment that I have taken on, I have found that the greatest strength for me and what has helped me the most is what I tried in my last assignment and I failed at, or I stumbled, or I struggled with, because then I know what to look out for and what not to do.
Some women leaders say it's very lonely at the top. You were at the top. You are still at the top, let me say. What has that experience been for you? And do you agree that it's lonely at the top? And how do you make it less lonely?
I totally agree that it's lonely at the top. Now, lonely not because you can't find people who want to be your friends. In fact, many times you have too many people who want to be your friends. But sometimes it's for all the wrong reasons. And what makes it lonely is that the feedback that you're getting at that level oftentimes is masked. You are not getting open, clean, unquoted, or you're not getting transparent.
Maybe people are scared too.
Sometimes they're scared, more often than not, because they have an ulterior motive. They want something from you, so they really want to tell you what you want to hear. And political leaders, I'm sure, experience this all the time, and unfortunately, some of them fall into the pit of thinking that everything is hunky-dory when it's not. So definitely it's lonely because you're not getting, you're not sure who's really with you because they're with you, or if they're with you because they want to influence or extract something from you. So how do you deal with it? You deal with it by seeking and cultivating relationships with people who clearly have nothing to gain from you in a pecuniary manner, and who are willing, who are also in need of that kind of candid feedback, and who are willing to share with you.
Would that's mean why fellow women at the top?
Okay, that's one category, and sincere ones, and those who are approachable, who are humble. And so for a forum like, for example, the Women in Business, this Africa CEO Forum is a fantastic forum where we can do that. I also lead the Women in Finance group in Nigeria. It's also a wonderful network where I have women peers that I can rub minds with, but also sometimes people who have been with you all the way. So I also have a group of my high school friends. We know each other through and through. They're not just trying to make friends with me today because they think I can, offer them a loan or something. So those are the kind of groups. And I have a sister who is an amazing. In fact, all my siblings are wonderful people. And of course, I have my immediate family, my husband and children. So just make sure that you are maintaining the key relationships in your life. Those who are clearly in your life because they care for you, and not for ulterior motives.
I think genuine relationships are very, very key in each person's life. What is one skill you've learned in leadership that has helped you navigate gender issues in the workplace?
Okay. So one of the skills that is the art of proving yourself. And when I say proving yourself, I find that you make calculated promises and then you go out of your way and ensure that you fulfill those promises, and then it builds trust. So eventually, when new challenges come up, other people will speak for you. Your chairman will speak for you. Your fellow board members will speak for you and say, no, if Toyin says she's going to fix that, she'll fix it. give her space. But that is because they have seen a track record. So many times I tell people, make promises. But make promises based on what you have committed or you have determined that you're going to do. And then go out there and do it. Because it's going to make it much easier for you the next time you have a problem, because they will say, you're going to ask me, okay, what happens if you don't make promises and you just do things? It's somehow much more impactful when you make a declaration of your intention and then you accomplish it. It builds, there's nothing that I know that builds trust more than that. And it gets to a point where, people will go to sleep and say, no, if Toyin says she will do this, she will do it. So that's one thing that has helped develop credibility. It's very important and very useful. And of course, raising other women and showcasing the strengths of other women around you.
What scares you the most in business?
A loss of credibility. You can lose money. You can lose business opportunities. You can lose friends and partners occasionally, but as long as you have not lost your credibility, as long as you have not lost your reputation, you're going to be fine, just fine.
A good name is better than riches.
Absolutely, I think, and that is critical both for you as an individual and for your business brand. So I can walk away from a huge load of money. I can walk away from deals. I can walk away from transactions. I can walk away from anything as long as I am sure that this is so that I can protect my reputation and it can remain intact.
Is there one mistake you've made on your way to the top that almost cost you your credibility or your reputation?
I remember, not firing somebody that clearly I should have fired. And yes, in a way, because ultimately this person then went ahead to do unethical things that could have endangered the reputation of the organization. So, clearly we had identified that this gentleman had some qualities that made him not a good fit. And then one or two people pleaded and said, oh no, give him another chance. And then the next time we were discussing this person, they had actually gone ahead and done something fraudulent. And thank God that we were able to contain this and we were able to redress the situation. But imagine if this was related to a third-party client's interest. So sometimes we should just do what we know to be right and not... Leadership is not a popularity game.
Trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts. And check the records and just do what you know to be right.
You're stuck in a very complicated deal and you need business advice urgently. Who do you call?
The first people I call, and this is in practice, are my team members.
Okay.
Because I believe that every leader must surround themselves with people who are brilliant, if possible, more brilliant than you. So the first call that I make is, and I have these kind of meetings regularly, is I call my inside team and I sit down with them and I say, look, these are the issues. What do you think? What I find is that the solution is not usually in the answer from one person, but by the time you aggregate views, you find out that it's beginning to form in your mind. And then I can then make a call to somebody at the top. So call one of my mentors and then say, look, this is what is happening. This is what we think, my team and I have discussed. I have options by that time I can share with them. And it works.
Great. How important is it for men in the gender balance discussion? I know Tony Elumeno is somebody you've worked very closely with. How important is it for men to join in this discussion?
Honestly, the men are a critical part of the solution. The women who have managed to get to the top of the ladder have gotten to the top of the ladder because there were men who sponsored them, there were men who believed in them, there were men who gave them opportunities, like Tony Elumelu gave me opportunities at the UBA group. Obautudeko gave me opportunity in the First Bank group. So I must remember those people. My father, my husband, these are men that are critical to me becoming who I am today. Now we need many more men like that, men who believe in women, men who will sponsor women, men who will vouch for women. The role of men is indispensable and it's critical.
One last thing on your book, Riding the Eagle. Tell us a bit about it and what are some of the key lessons we can take from it?
Okay, Riding the Eagle is a book that I wrote because I was looking for something and I didn't see it. So I wanted a book written by a professional, a practitioner, somebody who actually has hands-on experience in guiding investors and in investing in Nigeria. And I wanted the book essentially to tell me what one of my friends has called the good, the bad, and the ugly about investing in Nigeria. I couldn't find any such book, so I decided to write one. So the book essentially shares with us the investment climate and environment, a bit of the history, the political history, political background of Nigeria, our socioeconomic and sociocultural background. Then talks about the opportunities on a sector-by-sector basis of investing in Nigeria, and then shares some stories of those who have succeeded and who have failed and why. And in exploring the sectors, talks about the critical areas that we think that there is a gap that an investor can plug into, and of course then give some guidelines as to what to watch out for. And so I think it's an end-to-end book that everybody who is either investing in Nigeria or is interested in investing in Nigeria should have in their hands. And my ambition is to do the Africa version of that book.
The ambition is there, and I believe there's nothing you cannot achieve. What can we expect from you?
So the goal that I'm pursuing now is to build the Emerging Africa Capital Group into a household name across the region, to become a catalyst to the recognition of Africa as a significant investment destination and also origin. So catalyzing growth and development of African economies, and my organization being a frontline player in achieving this. That's my big, hairy, audacious goal.
I have no doubt you're going to be very successful at that. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Toyin Sanni, and thank you for listening to the Africa Report's Women Who Lead podcast. Be sure to connect with the team at theafricareport.com, at The Africa Report on Twitter, and I am at Ohenaba _Ama. For the very latest news and analysis, do sign up to our newsletter. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Until next time.